Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're doing what we do best, taking a really close look at a single source. One of you sent us this 15 days Finland and Norway tour with Northern Lights cruise from finlandtour-fi, and, well, it promises quite the Arctic experience. Our mission today is to really dig into this tour. What does the itinerary actually look like day to day? What's genuinely included for that price tag? And, how does that Northern Lights cruise really shape the whole thing? We want to get a handle on whether one trip can truly blend all that high-octane activity, the relaxation, and seeing the aurora from both land and sea. So if you've ever dreamt of those glass igloos or husky sledding or seeing the Northern Lights over, dramatic fjords, then you are definitely in for a treat. Let's see if this tour lives up to the hype.
Absolutely. And what's really interesting here, I think, is the sheer ambition of it. Trying to pack in a comprehensive Arctic journey, blending those very unique Finnish land adventures with a pretty significant coastal cruise in Norway. We'll try and connect the dots for you, see how those pieces fit together for the actual experience.
Okay, let's get started then. This tour from finlandtour.fi, 15 days Finland and Norway tour with Northern Lights cruise. What's the sort of high-level pitch? What are the basic stats we need right off the bat?
Right. So we're looking at a 14-night, 15-day trip. They list it as a daily tour, unlimited group size, which suggests it's pretty flexible in terms of who can book. And the price starts from 10,000 euros. So straight away, that puts it in the premium category for Arctic travel.
10,000 euros starting price.
Okay.
And the description mentions a perfect blend of adventure, relaxation, and natural wonders. That does sound ambitious for just 15 days. Does the itinerary actually back that up?
Well, it certainly tries to. The core promises, they cover a lot of ground. Experiencing the Arctic magic, Lapland discovery with Northern Lights chances, staying in those iconic glass igloos and even snow hotels, plus the winter activities, Santa Claus Village, Finnish saunas, Nordic food, and crucially, that Havila Northern Lights cruise along the Norwegian coast. They explicitly say you can capture the beauty of the aurora borealis from both land and sea. That's a key selling point, that dual experience.
Okay, so how on earth do they fit all of that into 2 weeks? Let's break down the itinerary, day by day maybe, starting in Finland.
Sounds good. It kicks off in Rovaniemi, Finland. That's the official hometown of Santa Claus, as many know. So days 1 to 3 are based there. Day 1 is arrival, check-in, and boom, your first Northern Lights tour right away. Day 2 is pretty full-on. Santa Claus Village, a 500-meter husky ride. We can talk about that length later, maybe. Meeting Santa, crossing the Arctic Circle for your certificate, Snowman World visit, and a traditional Finnish sauna. Then day 3 has a 2-hour snowmobile safari, which sounds more substantial, and another Northern Lights tour, this time by bus. They rate these days as moderate in terms of hectic level.
That does sound like a very strong start. Intense, maybe? You mentioned that hectic level, moderate. How should someone interpret that? Is moderate just like busy or genuinely tiring? And yeah, that husky ride, 500 meters. For someone dreaming of mushing through the wilderness, that does sound, well, brief.
That's a fair point on both. Moderate usually means a pretty full schedule. You're busy most of the day, maybe with some travel between activities. But there should still be pockets of downtime. It sets expectations, Not totally relaxing, but not completely exhausting either. And yes, the 500-meter husky ride, you're right, that's typically what we'd call a taster. It gives you the feel, the excitement, you meet the dogs, but it's not a long expedition. Very common on multi-activity tours to fit everything in.
Right, a taster. Okay, so Rovaniemi definitely sets a certain pace. Where does the trip go after that initial flurry of activity?
From Rovaniemi, it heads deeper into Finnish Lapland, and the pace seems to ease up a bit based on their ratings. Days 4 and 5 are in Sarsilke. That involves a transfer, then a stay at an igloo resort in one of those glass igloos, very iconic. Day 5 includes a traditional reindeer sledge safari. These days are marked easy and light, so suggesting more time to relax and soak it in. Day 6 is a transfer day to a place called Jääjoki, described as peaceful, scenic, for relaxation in the wilderness, also rated easy. Then days 7 and 8, you cross into Norway. Transfer to Kirkenes, check into the snow hotel there, another unique stay in an ice room. And day 8 features that king crab safari. You help catch them, then eat them fresh. That's an easy day, followed by a light day.
A snow hotel. That sounds amazing, but maybe big cold. What's that actually like beyond just the novelty factor? Is it comfortable?
Yeah, it is unique. People always ask about the cold, but honestly, they give you these incredibly high-tech thermal sleeping bags. Inside the structure, it's usually around -5 Celsius, but you stay surprisingly warm in the bag. It's definitely more about the experience, the wow factor of sleeping surrounded by snow and ice art than maybe the deepest sleep you'll ever have. It's a real bucket list tick for a lot of travelers. And that king crab safari, it's more than just eating. It's quite immersive. You learn about the fishing, you're out on the water, a proper Arctic food experience.
Okay, and then we get to what many people will be really excited about, that Northern Lights cruise. It's a 5-night, 6-day Havila Northern Lights Arctic cruise. Now, for listeners who aren't familiar, what makes a Havila cruise different? Is it purely luxury, or is there something specific about this route?
That's a really good question. Havila voyages are relatively new, known for their modern ships. They put a big emphasis on sustainability, using LNG and battery power, which is a big plus for many. But crucially, these ships aren't just tourist cruises. They operate along the traditional Norwegian coastal route, carrying local passengers and cargo between ports, just like the Hurtigruten ships have done for decades. So while it's comfortable, definitely it's also an authentic way to see the coast. You feel kind of woven into the fabric of Norwegian life, seeing these small communities, rather than just being on a floating resort cut off from everything. It's a different vibe.
Interesting. So part transport, part scenic cruise. How does that 5-night, 6-day trip actually unfold, sailing south from Kirkenes down to Bergen?
Right, so this is day 9 through to day 13. It covers a huge stretch of that famous Norwegian coastline. It involves lots of short stops in various ports along the way. Some are very brief, literally just time for cargo and local passengers. Others might be a bit longer. The main event, though, is the journey itself. The constantly changing, dramatic coastal scenery, fjords, mountains, islands, and of course being out on deck at night, away from light pollution, hoping for the aurora. So day 9, you embark in Kirkenes, sail to places like Vardø, Botsfjord, Berlevåg. Day 10 takes you to Mayhem, Honningsvåg, that's near the North Cape Hammerfest, X-Fjord, eventually reaching Tromsø late in the evening. Tromsø is the Arctic capital, so maybe a bit more time there. Day 11 is sailing through spectacular areas like the Lofoten Islands. They mention a dramatic fjord, snow-covered peaks, charming coastal towns. Stops includes Fallabær, Stamsund. The focus is really on that visual feast from the ship. Day 12 continues south, crossing the Arctic Circle again. Stops at Bodø, Sandnessjøen, and Rørvik. Views of unique mountains like the Seven Sisters Range. And day 13 brings you into the southern part of the route. You stop at Trondheim, which is a historic city, Kristiansund, Molde, Ålesund. Trondheim gets a specific mention for its colorful waterfront, suggesting maybe a slightly longer stop to explore.
So it sounds like a mix: constant scenery, quick glimpses of many towns, and a few slightly longer stops like Tromsø and Trondheim perhaps, and then the whole journey wraps up.
Exactly. It culminates in Bergen. Day 14 is disembarkation day in Bergen. You check into a hotel there and you have time to explore the city. They mention the historic Bergen Wharf, a UNESCO site, and the Flybanen funicular railway for views. That's rated a moderate day, allowing for that city exploration. And then day 15 is departure day. Check out transfer to Bergen Airport or the train station. And that's rated easy, the end of the adventure.
Okay, that is a seriously packed 15 days. Which brings us to the crucial question for anyone listening, especially given that €10,000 starting price. What exactly is included? Let's peel back the layers a bit. What do you actually get for your money?
Right, and that's always key. The package is fairly comprehensive for the core elements, which, you'd hope for at this price. So, accommodation. That covers the 3 nights in Rovaniemi, 2 nights in Sarselka in that glass igloo, 1 night in Gilajoka, those 2 nights in the Kirkenes Snow Hotel, and importantly, the 5 nights on the Havila cruise ship. It's quite a mix of accommodation styles, though. Standard hotels, those very unique, maybe less conventional stays like the igloo and snow hotel, and then the cruise cabin. Comfort levels will vary.
Right, the igloo might be more about the view than, say, space.
Precisely. Then meals. Breakfasts are included at all the hotels, and significantly, meals and cruisers are included. That's a big one, covering almost half the trip's meals. Transfers. All the airport transfers, arrival and departure, plus all the ground transport between the locations in Finland and Norway up to Kirkenes. That takes a lot of logistical hassle away. And activities. Those main highlights we discussed, the Northern Lights tours, Santa Claus Village, the 2-hour snowmobile safari, the reindeer sledge, those are all in the package price.
Okay, that sounds pretty good for the big ticket items. But what about the exclusions? You mentioned the cruise meals are included. What about the rest? For 10 grand, it seems interesting that most other lunches and dinners aren't covered. Is that normal or something you really need to budget heavily for on top?
That is an excellent point to flag. While it covers the main bases, the key exclusions are any visa costs, all flights, international and domestic, to get you to Rovaniemi and from Bergen. And yes, as you said, most lunches and dinners off the cruise. The source implies lunch at Santa Claus Village might be included, but generally you're on your own for meals during the land portion. Is it typical? At this price point, sometimes meals are excluded to offer flexibility, especially in towns or during free time. But yes, you absolutely need to factor in a significant extra budget for food and drinks for roughly half the trip. Also excluded travel insurance, which they strongly recommend, and any porter services for luggage.
Got it. Good to know. So beyond the itinerary and what's included, what other sort of practical details does the website give? Anything people should really be aware of before booking?
Yeah, they cover the usual practicalities. Payment terms, this one's important. A 60% non-refundable deposit is needed at booking. Full payment is then due 50 days before the tour starts. That 60% upfront, non-refundable, that's quite a high commitment level.
60% non-refundable. Okay.
Yeah, and the cancellation policy reflects that. If you cancel more than 50 days out, you only get 40% back, essentially. You lose the deposit. Cancel 50 days or less before departure, and there's zero refund. No refunds for no-shows or if you skip parts of the tour either.
So that travel insurance they recommend sounds less like a recommendation and more like a necessity with those terms.
Absolutely. Especially for an Arctic trip where weather can, and often does, cause delays or changes. That insurance is vital. They also mention tour operator rights standard stuff. They can change the itinerary for safety, weather, etc., and they're not liable for personal property loss or injury. Again, underlines the insurance need. And participant responsibilities. Need to be in good health, reasonably fit for the activities. That's snowmobiling, walking around ports, getting in and out of boats for the crab safari. It requires decent mobility. You need to inform them of medical conditions or dietary needs. And passports, visas, that's all on you. Standard respectful behavior is expected too. They do provide contact info, including WhatsApp, which is handy for asking questions before you pay that big deposit.
Right. Definitely ask questions first. And it also mentions you get the Finish One cab. A nice little souvenir, I suppose.
Yes. A fun little bonus. But perhaps more importantly for you, the listener, is something else we spotted. The tour currently shows 0 reviews on their site, according to the source we looked at. Now, that could just mean it's brand new or feedback hasn't been collated there yet, but it's definitely something to consider when you're looking at a trip with this kind of price tag and commitment. Lack of public feedback is a data point in itself.
That's a really crucial point. 0 reviews. Okay. Well, what an incredible journey we've just unpacked, at least on paper. From Finnish Lapland Santa, igloos, huskies, snowmobiles, through to that long Havila cruise down the Norwegian coast, stopping at fjords and towns. It really does sound like it aims to be that comprehensive Arctic adventure they promise.
It definitely does. This deep dive shows a tour structured to give you deep immersion. Multiple chances, theoretically, for the aurora from different settings, land and sea, stays in some truly memorable, if perhaps unconventional accommodations. And it seems quite strategically planned, get those classic Finnish Lapland must-dos done up front, then shift focus to the coastal scenery and culture of Norway via the cruise for the second half.
So wrapping this up for you listening, what's the takeaway? We've seen this blend of adventure and scenic cruising, maybe some relaxation. We've seen the detailed itinerary, the inclusions, the exclusions. That idea of seeing the northern lights from both land and sea is definitely compelling. But thinking realistically, the aurora is famously fickle.
Yeah.
How much does adding that 5-night cruise genuinely increase your odds versus maybe just setting up higher expectations that might not be met?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Adding the cruise certainly gives you more time in the aurora zone and different vantage points away from city lights. So, logically, it should improve your chances compared to a shorter land-only trip. But it's never, ever a guarantee. Weather, solar activity, so many factors are out of anyone's control. It diversifies your opportunities, yes, but guarantees, no. And maybe that leads to a broader thought for anyone planning this kind of trip. When you're heading to such a unique, powerful, and unpredictable environment like the Arctic, how do you balance the desire for those specific, booked experiences, the snow hotel, the fancy cruise, the guaranteed activities against the absolute need for flexibility? The need to just embrace the unexpected, whether that's bad weather, canceling something, or maybe seeing the most incredible aurora display on a night you least expected it. That balance is something really worth pondering as you dream about your own Arctic adventure.